Hi everyone, my name is Carly Bell and I love to do machine embroidery tutorials. And today we are going to be continuing on our sew along journey for the Main Street Celebration bench pillow from Kimberbell. And today we're going to be stitching out block number 4, which is the one kind of right in the middle of the pillow. That is the pickup truck with the little gas pump. So if you missed the previous videos, this is now video 5 in our series. The first video, we didn't stitch anything, we just got everything prepared. And then we've done a video for each block. Now, as I described in my last one, for the first 3 blocks, we did a different hooping kind of scenario or setup for each of those blocks, depending on what size hoop you have. So if you have a hoop that is big enough to fit your background quilting and the embroidery design for that block, you're going to follow the instructions in for block number 1. If you have your largest hoop is a 6x10, where the background quilting and the design doesn't exactly fit, we tweak it a little bit to make it fit, just the background quilting part. You're going to follow instructions for video number 2, the firehouse. That's just for the setup and hooping. And if your largest embroidery field is 5x7, you're going to follow instructions in block number 3, the general store. We did everything in a 5x7 hoop. Now for the remainder of the blocks, I'm just going to go ahead and do everything in a 6x10 hoop. So it'll be kind of a combination of those first 2 videos that we did. But by all means, you follow what works best for you. If you have an 8x12 hoop, you don't need to tweak anything. Just open up both designs and send it to your machine and start and work with your bigger hoop and stitch. If you have a 5x7 hoop, follow along just like we did for the general store, but now you'll be stitching out the pickup truck. Okay, so I have my instructions in front of me. I have my free cheat sheet that is available on my website, along with all of the other information for this sew along at carlybell.com. If you go to my website and just scroll down, you should see the Main Street Celebration. If you're looking at this the summer of 2025, if you're looking at this a while later, there is a sew along section in the menu at the top, or you can just search Main Street Celebration on the website, and you will find the post for this sew along. I also have it directly linked for you in the description box down below. All right, so let's get started. Um, for our supplies, I got my little envelope with everything for my pickup truck block, my background, my quilting, my applique pieces. I have my 6x10 hoop, and I have some lightweight cotton muslin that I am using in the place of stabilizer because it is a lot less expensive. So let me tighten my hoop, make sure everything is nice and taut. And we can set up our design now in Embrilliance, and also have my glue stick handy for when we put our batting, and we'll have the batting in place with the glue stick. All right, so I'm gonna switch you over to my desktop real quick. Looking at my computer screen, I have Embrilliance Essentials opened, and I'm gonna go to my files, and I have a whole folder just for Kimberbell. And let me open up this. So the first thing we're going to open is the background quilting. And we are doing block by block. And if I look at my cheat sheet, I could see on page 2, the pickup truck, we're doing the 6x8 design. So let me find 6x8. There we go. So I can just double click this, and now it's going to open in Embrilliance. And I'm going to change my hoop to 6x10 right there. Apply, okay. And I can see that my background quilting is a little bit too big for my hoop. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to click first. Let's see. If you're following along with me, you know I delete some steps. So I only like to do the placement stitch For the batting, I don't feel like we need a tack down stitch for the batting because I pre-cut my batting to fit. And I don't need a placement stitch for my background fabric, but I do want the tack down stitch. And this is the one that is slightly too wide for the hoop that you can see when I zoom in. Let's see, there's my stitch line and there's the hoop. So all I'm doing is moving this guy right in there. I'm not actually altering my background quilting because that does fit in my hoop. Okay, it's still a little too big. There we go. As soon as that red box around my uh, design sides goes away, that's when I know it now fits in the hoop. So I've adjusted that. I could save this as a working file so that I don't need to do this for the next few blocks. So let me do that. Save working file as, and I'm going to save it in my Kimberbell folder. Where's my Kimberbell folder? Right here. And then my Main Street Celebration folder. And I'll just save it right here. Okay, so we're going to name this Patriotic 6x8 background quilting for 6x10 hoop, so that I know what that is. And I can just pull this up next time and I don't have to adjust anything. So that is now a working file, a BE file. Oh my goodness, the rain is coming. It all of a sudden started having a thunderstorm outside. So if y'all hear that, that's the rain. My goodness. All right, so we have our background quilting. Now we need to add in our little pickup truck. So I'm gonna back up. And now I see that, so I can open that next time. Here's my Main Street Celebration embroidery files. Select my format. I'm working in my 6x10 hoop, so I don't have to mess with 5x7 this week. And here is the pickup truck. So I'm gonna drag and drop. And now it's right in the middle of my embroidery design. And because I've already got my background quilting done, I don't need a placement and a basting stitch. I already have a basting stitch here in my background quilting. So I select both of these first steps and I delete those. So my actual first stitch is going to be applique for the tires, then a stitch on the tires, and I think this is a placement line for something. And more applique and truck, finishing the truck. And let's see, I was hoping this would be a little bit shorter block. It might be. It might go quicker than our last few ones because there's only probably 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of applique, and then the little maybe one of these little rocket applique. So it shouldn't be as involved as like the fire station and the general store. But we are done with this now. So I am going to save my stitch file as, and I have my USB plugged in. Let's see. And I'm going to name it MSC3 pickup truck. And I'm saving it in the format that matches my machine. Hit save. If you have a Wi-Fi machine, you can, that's a brother or baby lock. You can also go to utility, Wi-Fi to brother or baby lock, type in the name and hit OK. I'm going to try it out again. I've been having trouble with my connection to my machine, but it's only when I have my computer plugged in to my modem. We're on block 4. Did I write 3 last time? Pickup truck. Let's see if it works. Whenever I have my computer plugged into my modem, it doesn't, the Wi-Fi, I think, isn't working. See, I get an error, but I'll go check my machine and see if it is working or not. Oh wait, I do need to eject my USB stick. I always forget that. Okay, I safely ejected it. So here's my little USB stick. Plug that in. Let me hit embroidery. I'm gonna go to Wi-Fi first just to see, because sometimes it'll tell me an error and that it didn't work, but then it's there. Let's see. I think it's thinking. Please wait a while. Yes, ma'am. I will wait for you. And yeah, it did not transfer. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to USB and scroll down. And here's my MSC. I named it 3, but it's actually 4, but that's okay. And okay, and set, and embroidery. All right, I have white thread on right now, so I will just leave that because my first stitch is telling me where to put my batting. So let's go with that. And then I will get my water soluble thread ready to base down my background fabric. Okay, so that is done. I'm gonna take it over to the craft table now and add the batting and the background fabric. Okay, so let me get that out my envelope here. And use my handy dandy glue stick. And that's just to help keep my batting in place. I've already cut it to size, so it's going to fit perfectly in my little box. Just press it down. And then I'm going to take my background fabric and just eyeball it being in the center of that. We got a lot of wiggle room with this, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Unlike our previous video where we had to do it in separate hoopings, I don't need this to be in a very specific spot because I don't have anything stitched on it yet. So once I do the tack down and the background fabric, my embroidery design is going to stitch right where it is supposed to because everything is lined up in Embrilliance versus me trying to line things up, in a certain spot. So I do enjoy doing everything in one hooping. It's a little less work and less worry. So here is that. And I'm going to thread the machine with the water soluble thread. And that's going to do our little basting stitch. And we're going to let that go around. All right, that is done. So I'm going to go back to my white thread now and stitch my background quilting. Okay, background quilting is done. And now we're ready to actually start stitching the design and applique. And the first step is the tires. So it's a placement stitch. It really doesn't matter what color you do for this step, but I'm gonna go ahead and load black and have it on there. And it's gonna show me where to put my faux black leather for the applique. Thread tail trimmed, and now I got my black faux leather, put those right over those little circles. And you do want your black thread for this step because this is going to be a raw edge applique with a beam stitch finish. So you're going to see, you want this to match whatever color you do your tires in. All right, and now we will take this off the machine and go trim out these 2 tires. All right, the little tires are trimmed. So now we'll go back to the machine and stitch some detail. Okay, and that detail is in gray thread. So I'm gonna take the black off and add the dark gray thread. All right. And the next step is kind of a placement stitch for something. Says it doesn't matter what color you do it in because it's going to be stitched like a basting stitch, so it'll be easy to pull out. So I'm going to go ahead and load my red thread because that is what is going to be needed after this step. And this is going to be a line like to help show us right where to put the red faux leather for the back of the pickup truck. And they're not actually stitching this part closed because it's going to be to where we can put stuff inside of it. So that's why we need this little guide to show us right where to put the top of that thread, that faux leather. So I have a red line right here. And let me double check where we want to line it up. It can have some going on either side of the red line, but the red line is like right in the middle here. And if you want to tape that in place, because you really don't want this one to move after. You want this to be nice and straight, and that's going to be the top of the bed of the pickup truck. So, and this stitch you are going to want red thread. It's going to be a raw edge applique with the bean stitch. Lovely. Okay, we'll go trim that. Came out very cute. Spot on with the placement, so that's good. Those lines really help with making sure you put things right in the spot you want them. So this is the back of the truck and it's going to be open like that so it can look like something is inside of it. Was one of the embellishments. But just trim this and then we'll go do the other bit of applique for the truck. Okay, so that's the back of the truck trimmed, and now we'll go do the front. And we can just leave our red thread on, and first it'll be the placement, then we'll place a piece here, and then it will be that bean stitch, finishing stitch, um, and we'll trim. Okay, take this to the craft table and trim it. Okay, now the truck is done and we'll go work on the window. All right, this next step is for the window and it's going to be done in white thread. So I'm going to load white. Also, I realize now this window is pretty much the same as the window in the fire truck in block number 2. And I'm now realizing I did something, didn't do it wrong, but I didn't do what the instructions said. If you remember, when we did the window for the fire truck, I put a piece of white applique HTV glitter and then it's stitched on top of it. And I thought that was strange. I was like, why would we put that underneath? It's a fill stitch. You're not going to see it. And I misread the instructions. It wasn't supposed to be white glitter. It was supposed to be white permanent topping. And I'm thinking this is something similar to water soluble topping, except it's not water soluble. And it's just to help keep the stitches from sinking down and having a nice crisp edge on this faux leather. So I found this in the embellishment kit. It's like a white piece of almost, it feels like a plate tablecloth material, you know, like the plastic tablecloths you get to put on tables for birthday parties and celebrations. That's what this feels like. But so they want us, wait, first they're going to do a placement stitch to show us where to put it, which I can see where to put it. It's fine. But we'll stitch it out. Okay. So showing us where to put it. And then we put this white permanent topping and stitch the white of the window on top of it. Oops. And let that stitch out. And that's going to be a fill stitch. And then I think it should tear away, just like tear away in water soluble topping. So again, I don't know how necessary this is, but it was in the embellishment kit and tears off super easy. So now that is done. The next step is we're going to put the clear vinyl over that window to give it that look like all our other windows in this project have had so far. I got some spots of things on my vinyl. Just trying to make it clear. So I push the hoop back on, and I'm still going to keep my white thread on, and I'm just going to hold this in place and stitch it. And we will go and trim it. So now you can see I got that clear vinyl over this section, and I'm just going to trim it right around the window stitching. All right. So that is done now. There's a little jump stitch I don't like right here. Let's see if I can get it. Okay, so I think now we're going to move on to the gas pump. All right, actually, okay, we'll change the thread color to gray. And the next step is a little door handle um, piece on the truck. Little detail. We'll stitch that in gray, and then we'll move on to the gas pump. Got a little thread tail I'm gonna trim, and still keeping the gray on. This is going to be, I think, the actual pump coming off the side. It's supposed to be like the metal pump. And then it will do the placement and bean fish stitch finish for the body of the pump. We'll do that next. And I'll keep the gray thread on for all of that. Okay. And we will take this to the craft table and go and trim it. All right, that is all trimmed, and now we'll go do a bunch of details on the gas pump. All right, first is going to be the panel fill, which is in white. So I will change to white thread and let that stitch out. The next detail is done in black thread, so I'm going to switch to that. A little thread tail I want to get out of the way before it starts stitching everywhere. There we go. All right, the next detail is on the front of the gas pump, and it's done in red thread. Okay, and I think this may be one of the last details on the pump itself, and it's kind of like a top and bottom piece, and I'm doing this in gray. All right, we are now done with the truck and the gas pump, and we're going to applique one of the little rockets on the top and then stitch our fireworks with metallic thread. So first step up here is the fuse of the rocket, which I'll do in red, and then the little star of the rocket, which I'll do in white. I did this jump stitch into the star. I'm going to cut that before we move on to the applique so that it doesn't get where I can't cut it off. But the next bit is the bottom part of the rocket, which I'm going to outline in red thread. So I'm going to go ahead and change to red. I did another kind of jump stitch. It didn't do these for the other ones. I don't know why it's doing it now, but okay, now I got my outline for my rocket, and I'm gonna place my white applique glitter and let that stitch into place with the red outline. Okay, and we will go trim this out. And as we have done in the past, we are going to iron this in place. Actually, I can wait and iron it when the other piece is on. So let's go and do the top red part of the rocket now, because my iron is heating up. And I'm going to change over to the white thread now. That pretty contrasting look of the thread and the glitter. Okay, so that was the placement stitch for the top part of the rocket. And now we will put the red glitter, and I will hold it in place and let it stitch out. Red didn't cut like it was supposed to. Okay, so we'll take this off. It seemed like it missed a couple stitches, so let me actually back up the last few stitches and let them stitch again, because it's not bold like in one spot. You know, with a bean stitch, it's like a little bit bolder. That last spot is not bold. No, it's still not bold. I guess it was the first few stitches. Let's see. I'll leave it alone. It's fine. But can y'all see what I'm talking about? I'm being a little too picky. You see those couple stitches right there, not as bold as the rest, but it's fine. No one's going to notice that but me. So we will trim this. Oops. And now we can press it. And I'm just going to use some extra muslin to use as a pressing cloth. And we'll activate that adhesive that's on the back of that glitter. Alrighty then, that is done. And now I believe all we have left is the metallic thread fireworks. The first color looks like it's white. So I am going to load my silver. And with the metallic thread, I find I have to really sit and babysit and make sure that the thread doesn't come off of my thread stand, because it likes to do that. My thread came out of the needle, which I find this happens sometimes. Every time it cuts, the tail is a little bit too short to catch the bobbin, to catch it after. Okay, now we will switch to gold metallic thread. Right, and the last metallic thread is red. This is the second to last step though. After this, all we have are the little eyelets, which we do in blue. That's where the fairy lights will go. So last couple steps here. Okay, last one. Blue for the eyelets. All right, all of the stitching is now done, so we just need to clean up, press, and trim. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is take this out of the hoop and put that aside. And I have my water soluble basting stitch, which I am going to dissolve. And if I see any jump stitches, I'll trim them, but I think everything looks good. So it's just dissolving this, press, and trim. Once you have that dissolved, you should just be able to grab the basting, the bobbin stitch of the basting, and pull it right out. And now I'm just going to press all along the edges to make sure everything's nice and crisp and flat before I trim it. And I'm going to be very mindful of my metallic thread and my embroidery leather. All right, now that is done, I'm going to get my rotating cutting mat and my orange pop ruler and trim this according to the instructions, which is in the same ruler we were using for the previous block. And get everything out my way so that my cutting mat doesn't hit anything. Okay, and you're going to want the bottom of the tire and the gas pump to be a 1/4 inch away from the bottom of your orange pop ruler. That is kind of your guide to make sure you're cutting it in the right spot and then center it. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Let me see. The last one I cut on the front, but normally I cut from the back. I like the back because I can see the puncture marks of where my baste-in stitch was. Now I can't use the side ones as a guide because those I adjusted, but I feel like I can get a much better idea of the center by using the batting box that is the outline here. Yeah, okay, that looks about right. And then you could start on the left side and start cutting. Okay, and if it goes like it's supposed to, voila. Yay, got it all. And we are now done with the pickup truck block. I think it came out super cute. Actually, I can't wait to show it to my aunt, Delana. She is the one who got into embroidery with me. Her and my uncle own a gas pump servicing company where they go out and service and install gas pumps, and they love old trucks. So I'm thinking I will take this design and apply it to something else and like put their business name on it, I think they would really like that. So this is so cute. I think it came out very adorable. So that is it for today, guys. This is our fourth block now in the Main Street Celebration Bench Pillow series. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will be back next time with the next block, which will be for the cute little tree with the hanging quilt. So that's going to be fun. And then I think we will start making embellishments and move on to the farmhouse in the last one. We need to make embellishments before the farmhouse because that one has an embellishment that is incorporated into the actual sew in part of the design. So that's it for today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and you go and stitch this out and it comes out great. And I will see you next time. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks.